Welcome to episode 20 of the One Small Change podcast. On today's episode, we have Mr. Toby Huntington-Whiteley, male model, celebrity fitness trainer, and founder of the new sustainable supplement brand, HWLabs. As a model, Toby's graced the covers of ELLE and JÓN Magazine. He's frequently featured in the pages of GQ and has starred in campaigns for Jacamo and Christopher Cowan. Toby has a passion for fitness and is one of London's most in-demand personal trainers. Previously working at one of the city's leading boxing studios, Kobox, he now delivers online and physical personal training through his popular platform, HW Fitness. HWLabs, Toby's latest venture, is a sustainable supplement brand designed to take the guesswork out of nutrition. And I've personally tested their latest product, which is the gummies, fortified with vitamins and antioxidants, and they are very addictive, I'm not going to lie. We'll get into the workings behind that latest venture, I'm sure, in the discussion today. So, Toby, how are you doing?
Great, thank you so much for that amazing introduction, Simon. It's an absolute pleasure to be on here with you.
Yeah, it's great to have you on, mate. It's great to have you on. I'm a lifelong GQ fan myself. I get the subscription every week, so I frequently see you with many of our other. I've started to realise that I've been picking off all of the usual suspects for this podcast. We've had Richard Badu, we've had Jim Chapman.
Yeah.
You guys are often seen, I think, standing next to each other, enjoying these events that we used to have pre-COVID.
I know, it's a little bit like a kind of a rat pack of the men's kind of social kind of scene of the men's fashion. But yeah, it's been really sad. Yeah, I haven't seen those guys in nearly a year now. You know, is it June? No, we're not June. June usually is men's fashion week, and we haven't had it this year or last year. And then the same for the winter ones. It's kind of just disappeared. So it's been a real shame that all the fun stuff has kind of disappeared for the last 18 months now. It's really sad.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, hopefully I think September's the next one, right? So hopefully by then we'll see something.
Yeah, September is never. It's not the not the men's though. Men's was never really around September. There was always what was great. September was the GQ Men of the Year Awards, which is September,
right? Yeah.
Which hopefully that will be on again, but you never know. You never know if it's all going to be.
See. Yeah. So you're in Paris at the moment. How are things out there?
Paris is good. We have today is the first day out of lockdown, which is great. So the curfew, we still have a curfew. So it's curfew at 9 till 9 p.m. So we've got to be at home before 9. And then I'm not sure if the shops, I haven't walked around today. Not all shops are open, but a few of the restrictions are being released now. We're kind of, I suppose, 2 or 3 weeks behind you guys in the UK.
Yeah. We just had another run of restrictions lifted today, so we're allowed to cautiously hug our friends today, which is very, very interesting description. What's brought you to Paris? I know you're a London man previously.
Yeah, so I moved here. I live here now officially. I moved here in September for business opportunity. I'm trying to get a few things running off the ground here. I can't talk about them too much at the moment, but the stuff I was doing in London, I was based in Kobox, and then due to COVID, we were all starting to work from home, and then I took a lot of my clients online just because I couldn't saw them, and that business has gone really, really well. I did a lot of working for Kobox. I'm still kind of working for Kobox a little bit behind the scenes, and there was an opportunity out here for me in Paris, and I kind of just jumped on it. I've been living in London. I was living in London since 2013, and felt like a new change. So it's brilliant. And I moved here with my partner as well, which is also she's also French, which has helped the whole transition and make it a lot easier.
Absolutely. How is your French?
Horrendous. It's been really difficult. I took 3 months lessons when I first got here, kind of a couple of hours a day, and it was going well, but I don't want to use it as an excuse or anything, but I have severe dyslexia, so it's very, very hard for me, to know English, let alone picking up French. But I'm getting there. What I'm trying to do now is start on the apps and just do a couple of, if it's 30 minutes to an hour a day on Duolingo. and just get there. But because of it's been restrictions, I haven't been able to talk to that many people.
Yeah.
You know, my partner Noah, she's fluent in English. Her family are pretty good at English as well. So I have been kind of getting by with my basic French, but I do need to kind of push that. And the more we get out now, go to restaurants, start ordering food, you start picking up those basic bits, and then I'll be able to kind of build my vocabulary up a little bit more, day by day, week by week.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I don't envy you. I've always struggled with languages myself. It's I think everyone has specific skills that they're good at. That's not been one of mine, unfortunately. But always time to change these things, isn't there?
Yeah, I still wish in the back of my head I'm just going to go to sleep and then wake up one morning and just like, that's it, it's just done. But I think it will just slowly rub off.
So I mean, you mentioned that you were in London since 2013. You obviously, I think you're a country guy to start with. I always like in this podcast to go back to a bit of the origin story. So why don't you tell us a bit about your childhood and how you feel that it sort of shaped you and your outlook on life and your business ventures moving forward?
So I grew up in the West Country, in Devon, in the countryside, and I grew up on a small holding with my mum and dad and my two sisters. And they grounded us. I had a very, very humble and grounded kind of upbringing. Went to the local school and, caught the bus to the top of the lane. But what mum and dad was amazing is that we had just all this open space, and we had pigs, we had chicken, they still do, chickens, ducks, sheep. Dad's got the most amazing vegetable garden. So we were always, if you want to tie into my kind of fitness and nutrition kind of side, I was always fed like the most amazing food just because it was homegrown. Dad's vegetable garden was completely organic. The eggs were, free range organics, and the sheep and the pigs, they were ours, and they went in the freezer after a few months as well. So we knew where a lot of our produce was coming from. And being a West Country kind of boy, rugby's a huge thing down there, and I started playing rugby when I was the age of 5. I never played football really, kicked about with my mates, but rugby was my biggest sport until I was about 18. Did okay, not amazingly, played in the first team at a local club and for school, but, never even thought about being a professional or anything like that. But just always loved sport and played, rugby was my main sport, but played kind of anything with a ball, tennis and cricket mostly, a little bit of swimming here and there, but always very active. Mum was a PT. She was a mum, but she also kind of dabbled in a few other bits. She worked in jewelry, but she also did PT as well. So she was PT, taught classes, which are those kind of classic, kind of early 90s kind of pump classes with a step or not a step or a little bar. Yeah.
I'm thinking like the Eric Prydz Call on Me video. Is it like that?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, mum was in tight stuff, and all her ladies were as well. It was just a studio, and she would just get people to do whatever she wanted to. If it was squats, yeah, exactly. So fitness and nutrition has always been kind of a massive part of who I am. And I suppose then from there, so I lived in the countryside until I was kind of 18, and then I went away traveling for between university and sixth form. And then when I went to university, I needed to pick up a sport. Back of my mind, I always thought, I'll just get back into rugby. But after my traveling, I was living in East Africa for about 6 months. Living off rice and beans, and I really was just living off rice and beans, like nothing at all. We were completely on a budget, so I've probably grown full height by then. So I was very tall, and I came back like a runner bean. I was so skinny. So when I went to university and looked at there's the freshers kind of fair, and then you look at the rugby clubs and whatever, and you go over to the rugby team and you're seeing these other 6 foot guys, and they're twice as wide as me, and I was like, maybe my rugby career's over now, because I couldn't get going into it. It'd have to maybe going to the gym or whatever. If I just went on the pitch, I'd be snapped in half, a little beanpole of myself. So I decided to pick up rowing, and then I rowed throughout my whole university, and loved it. It was absolutely amazing. The great thing about university rowing is that there's two options. If you've rowed before, you go into the senior squad. If you've never rowed before, you're put into a separate squad completely. So you're put in a novice squad, and you start from scratch, which is actually really good for picking up a new sport because everyone else around you is starting from day dot. So you build a real big kind of connection with your crew, and it's a real big push because you all wanted to do better and better and better and better and better. So that's a really nice thing, and I can't recommend, actually, if you're not really sure what to do and you want to start something different. Rowing is a great thing to do at university. And obviously I was quite genetically blessed for that. The taller you are, the better better you are at rowing. Just it helps. So I did that for kind of 4 years, graduated 2012, and it was always been my dream to move to London. I remember when I was at school, when I was about 13, I was in a geography class. It's quite a funny story. In a geography class, and the teacher said, who wants to live in a city? And I think kind of out of a class of about 30 people, maybe 2 or 3 people put their hands up. And then the next question was, who wants to live in London? And I think I was the only one person that put my hand up in that class that actually wanted to go to London. And so it's always been, it's not a thing to kind of do from going from the countryside all the way to London. It's not. I suppose it's more popular now to kind of come to the big smoke, or whatever you want to call it. But yeah, it's always been from an early age to want to live in that kind of city and kind of feel it and experience what it is instead of just being a country boy. So yeah, I moved straight after graduating to London. Summer of 2012. I got a job. I was kind of interning, I suppose. Well, was it an intern? I can't remember. God, it was a job. It wasn't an intern. It was a job, and I was doing it started, and I just hated it. I absolutely hated it when I was kind of doing 6 days a week, 10, 12 hours a day, and I just got sick and tired of it. And what inspired me to become a personal trainer was the Summer Olympics. It was when the Olympics were in London then, and there was just a massive buzz, and I was working, but I always had, up at the top of the screen, the Olympics going on, and I was watching them and loving it, and I was like, those guys are doing what they love doing, and I'm here doing a job that I'm not particularly interested in. It was good. It was just coming to university, and I was lucky enough I had a job in the first place, but I didn't really like it, and because it was sport as well, I kind of realized I got to be doing something active. I was sat at a desk looking around at everyone else at the age of 21, 22, and thinking, shit, is this going to be the rest of my life sat at a desk? And I kind of had to make a decision what I really, really wanted to do. So I quit that, stopped, and then became a personal trainer, and really haven't looked back. And it's the thing that's probably come most natural to me ever, is teaching people. And I think that's what I love more than anything about personal training, is teaching someone and seeing someone's progression from when they first start with me to 2 months, 2 years down the line, and beyond that journey with me, because I've always valued the strength of fitness and health and sport for whatever it is. If it's just for building up your confidence because you feel like you look better, or for your mental health or anything, you really do see people's kind of mindset and just the way they stand, the way they hold themselves. From the first day they walk in the gym to 2, 3, 4 weeks later or months later when they're coming in, and they just look inches taller. So it's one of those things that really is massively rewarding for me. So yeah, that's a bit of a background. I always, it goes on a bit.
No, I like it. Well, it seemed to be a bit of a common theme in the guests that we have on the podcast, that they've all had this moment, not necessarily a singular moment, but they've had this big transitional period, normally in their early 20s, where they're in a job, a decent job. So it's not like it's a bad job to start with, but having to make that leap of faith into something that they're passionate about, I think is something that everyone can learn from, because it's never too late. And I think there's lots of people, even in their 30s, late 30s, 40s, 50s even, who they can still make that switch and enjoy the rest of their lives, because it is so important what we do.
I think it becoming self-employed and not being, an employee and taking control of everything is very, very daunting. When I did it, suddenly my salary had slashed to nothing. I had a salary straight at university. I had a salary. I knew how much money I was coming in. I was paying rent. I was being able to go out with the beers with the boys and whatever, and then had to pay for a course. And then the first day into the gym, I was lucky. It was a good gym, and they kind of supported me. But for the first few months, I made nothing. You're talking, a couple of £100 a week
in London as well,
and you just in London, and you really, I had to, graft, and then it just feels so good when you realise that I've done that all myself, and you get rewarded. The harder you work, the more, if you're doing it for financial security, the more money you get. We all need to be able to pay our bills and pay our rents. And if you're a hard worker, or if you're a grafter, then work for yourself, because it's the most amazing feeling just to be able to kind of take control of it. It's been incredibly scary over the last year. Again, I feel like I've had to start from scratch again, and I still haven't fully recovered yet. I'm nowhere near where I was 18 months ago. Yeah. But we start again. We live it. We go again. I'd much rather be in this situation than, let's say, being made redundant or having to go back to a job that I don't like.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a really powerful message. That no matter what the situation, if you're really passionate and enjoy what you do, and you mentioned that teaching piece, which I think is such a key driver for so many people, is being able to teach, being able to add value to other people. I don't think any of us can ask for much more than that from what we do. So even if the finances do take a dive, at least you're still doing something that you're passionate about. Yeah,
I think sharing knowledge is one of the most powerful things that anyone can do. If it doesn't matter what knowledge it is, but just sharing what you know to other people, bringing people up, educating someone about something is the most rewarding thing you can do. Being able to, for someone not to be able to do something for them, that they can do it, and for them to be able to teach someone else to do it. You're a father of two. What you're doing is you're teaching your children, right, to become a better person than you are, and that's the kind of the best feeling. And that's how you should be feeling with anyone, if it's your clients or your employees or whatever. That is your duty as a role model or as a leader, I suppose, is to build the people up around you. Well, that's what I think, anyway.
Absolutely, and definitely as a business leader, that's so important, because if you don't focus on developing your team in their own right, then those individuals won't get career satisfaction on their own, and so they won't want to work in your location anymore. So I think that's a really important point. So in the view of giving teaching and giving as much value as we can do through the audio or video waves, what are the key elements from your point of view, maybe less obvious ones if you can think of any, for staying healthy and keeping in shape? For example, are there any exercises that you tend to find give disproportionately large benefits for your clients and that sort of thing?
So funny, I've just been doing some content, and it was a reel, 30-second reel, and it was 5 ways that you can drastically increase your chances of hitting your goals. And they're simple, but they really do make a difference. And it's all about tracking. Number 1 was tracking what you're eating. You need to be making sure that you are not overeating or not undereating. So you need to figure out roughly how many calories you should be on. Now, if you want to be putting on muscle, you need to be in a calorie surplus. So you need to be eating more food so your body can build muscle, and you need to be making sure you're hitting the right amount of protein. Whereas if you're trying to lose weight, you need to be in that calorie deficit, where your energy expenditure is the other way around. So you're going to be burning more than you're consuming. So that's always been number 1 to me, is make sure you're doing that. And it's consistency. All of these are going to be about consistency. You can't do it for a week. It's lifelong or whatever. Number 2 was tracking your workouts. So many people out there, so many people I talk to, they'll just go in and they'll do it and they'll pick up a weight what they feel like. But you need what is progressive overload. You need that if it's just toning up, or if you want to build muscle, or if you want to gain strength. You need that progressive overload. You need to be challenging your muscles constantly. The whole point of being in the gym is that I think people forget that you should leave the gym weaker than when you walked in. You don't get stronger in the gym. You make yourself weaker in the gym, and then between the gym sessions, that is where you're getting stronger. For then when the next time you come into the gym, you are able to perform better than you did. And it's not about lifting weight. It's about maybe running faster, or cycling further, or being able to reach your toes more if you're doing yoga, or you're working on that breathing. It's that progressive overload, and it's through everything. It's not just kind of muscle, it's your heart, it's your breath work, it's your mental state. That progressive overload on all of it is going to help you. And then number 3, tracking sleep. Sleep is so important. If you sleep 8 hours a day, that's a third of your life, and that's where our body is going to rest and recover the most. So if you've not got adequate sleep, and it's got to be good sleep, so I always recommend my clients to have 6 to 8 hours a night, and that's where you're going to get it. And then number 4 was water intake. So many people are dehydrated. Hydration is so important for you, so try and be hitting those 2 liters a day at least. And then the final one is 10,000 steps. I just say 10,000 steps because it's what we've been recommended, but that exercise or that movement, whatever you want to call it, outside of the gym is so important. It's going to increase that, it's great for your heart, cardiovascularly. It's going to create that more of a calorie kind of surplus, more of a calorie burn. It's going to get your metabolism working a little bit more, just the exercise. So I always say 10,000 steps or 30 minutes of simple kind of exercise, if it's a walk or a jog, or if it's just a stretch, just anything that's going to raise your heart rate just a little bit more than what you're doing sat here, sat down. So kind of 10,000 steps or just 30 minutes of activity. But then you kind of asked what kind of exercises, I suppose, and I've always said, you've got to be hitting those compound movements. People are only in the gym for an hour, 45 minutes, maybe 30 minutes. So you've got to be making the most of it. All our time is incredibly precious. So compound movements where you're working more than one joint or more than one muscle group is the most important. And if you are time sensitive, then that's where I would be kind of putting most of my effort. And you've kind of got five major lifts that you want to be working on. Your squat, and your deadlift. Now, they don't have to be conventional squats, they don't have to be deadlifts, but you need a squat and you need a deadlift in there. They could be single leg or the split squats. You need to be working those. You need an upper body push. So a minimum, you want to be working your push up or a press or an overhead press, working, your anterior, your upper body anterior, upper body push. And then you'll be working a pull. So, the king of pulls is a pull up or a bent over row. That's what you're going to be working on. And then there's many different kind of variations of that, but you need to be making sure that you're getting in a good solid compound row. And then finally, you need to be challenging that core and working that stability. I love anti-rotation core exercises. Now, anti-rotation is where you're holding something or doing something where that is trying to put you in the easiest way into poor posture. So, when you grab a cable and it's weighted and you've got to hold it out in front of you, that cable's wanting to pull you back to where it's anchored. Now, if you're fighting against it, you're still, but your body's working to keep straight and it's stopping you from rotating. So anti-rotation work is brilliant. A plank is actually kind of anti-rotation if you're not dipping your hips down side to side. So anti-rotation, I think, is a great one because it's working those internal and external abs all in one. So it's a great bang for your buck. Yeah. Core exercise.
Love it. Loads of value there. That's awesome. And then with the tracking point that you mentioned before, what are you advising specific tech for that? I mean, obviously you can do it old school and write things down, but I imagine most of your clients are using technology, Whoop bands or Apple Watches or Fitbits. Is there any that you particularly prefer out of those? I'm speaking purely selfishly because I lost my Apple Watch, so I need to get something new now.
I think it doesn't really matter as long as what it's doing is tracking. You can do I haven't used a Whoop band, but I've heard amazing stuff about it that kind of tells you if you're over or under training, which I think is wonderful. So if you are really conscious about that, or you don't feel in tune with your body, then that's a great thing. But you can track your sleep without even, having a Whoop band, right? I woke up this morning, and the first thing I said to Noah was, that was a horrendous sleep. Right, and that was a bad sleep. So if it's a bad sleep, you know that you're not going to have recovered well, and you're not going to have rested well. So you don't necessarily need technology to tell you it. It's just, I think technology can help you keep motivated. I had an Apple Watch, and for a while, and they kind of gave up because it sounds weird, but I think I'm in a very privileged position that because I've worked in the gym and been in fitness, I kind of know. Yeah, I know if I hit 10,000 steps a day without even looking at it. I know when I've been underactive or really active. But I think the Apple Watch I used was absolutely brilliant. Because it has everything on there. I think it measuring your ECG and your VO2 or whatever is like, you don't need to know that. I think it's a bit, your heart rate is enough. I think they're going far too down the line of it. We're not athletes, and for general health, your heart rate is great, and your steps is enough. And then writing your workouts down. I used to have a journal. I used to just write it all down, and get on Excel spreadsheets and put it all in. Or get an online personal trainer, self-plug. Find someone that's going to do it for you, and that's what I do as a profession, and that's where the value of a personal trainer comes in. I track everything that my clients are eating because I write the plan for them. I do a consultation with them. I find out what they're doing, what they don't like to eat, and then I'll create that plan for them and make sure they're hitting the right amount of calories, the right amount of protein, the fat and carbohydrate, and then keep on top of them to make sure that they're eating it. But if you don't have a PT, then the other one's great. What's everyone called? What was used? I never use it because MyFitnessPal. Yeah. MyFitnessPal is great. And then same for the workouts. I make sure that my clients have got that progressive overload because I am controlling the workout. I never, a good thing is you don't really want to be doing you never want to do the same workout more than once. Never. But that doesn't mean you can't do the same exercises as time before. You just needs to be changed slightly. And that could be simply just putting in a pause on a rep, increasing or decreasing the rep, increasing or decreasing the load, working faster, working slower. But no workout should be ever be the same, because that means you're just staying static. So you need to make some sort of change, some sort of adjustment, so that your body has got that progressive overload. So you just need to be writing it down. And that's where it gets a little bit more technical, and that's where maybe a professional can help to make sure that you are hitting that progressive overload. But technology is great. I think it's amazing. I think if people are not sure, then investing in a piece of any bit of tech, if it is an Apple Watch or a Fitbit, most phones have a tracker on it, and it doesn't really matter if it's inaccurate, because every day it's going to be inaccurate, and you're going to have an average. Yeah. If it's going to overstep you by 10 every day, it just means every day is going to be 10 extra. So it doesn't really matter. Your target is 10,000 steps. It doesn't really matter if you hit 9,000 steps. No, it's just a target. It's just about getting you up moving. So technology is brilliant. Use it as much or as little as you need.
Yeah, I like that. As you say, it's just about awareness of these things, isn't it? And awareness of the value of them. And if you're aware of how you slept and you modify your daily energy output accordingly, then you're listening to your body. And I guess that's the negative of tech, is that it means that we lose touch with our own awareness of our own bodies. And if we rely too much on that technology, then it can be potentially to our detriment, as you say, if we're not with a professional. So, how have you found that switch from physical to online training? I know that for me, I love having one-on-one chat with friends and business colleagues. Zoom just doesn't really give me that same connection, and I don't really know why. I can't wait to start doing these things in person. But how have you found it at your end?
I found there's positives and negatives to it. The negative is that I am not there when the client is training, and I can't adjust them accordingly. and make sure that, they're doing everything correctly. But the positive of going online training is that, weirdly, instead of seeing that client once a week and just concentrating on that one workout or maybe 2 workouts a week, I'm now taking full control of it, and I actually feel my relationship with my clients in a way has got stronger because I'm in contact with them more, even though I'm not there, and they will be more comfortable asking me a question if it's on the phone, because there isn't that, we're not face to face, which can be a bit uncomfortable. Having a personal trainer can be quite intimidating. So I think I've really enjoyed it, and I've been able to see more people. There's only a certain amount of people I could train a day, and now I've been able to, like I said, the joy of my job is to share my knowledge, and I've been able to increase the amount of clients I've had. And it's just great to see the rewarding, and they take more control of it. They're not relying on me so much in a way, because I'm saying, look, this is you. I'm going to hold you accountable, but I'm not there next to you pushing you fully. You've got to go and do that hour workout by yourself or with your friend. I'm not going to be there counting your reps. I'm not going to be there timing. So people take more control, and I actually feel like people have hit their goals quicker doing it this way.
Really?
Than my
That's fascinating. So do you think after lockdown you'll carry on in a mix of hybrid format, or will you go?
Yeah, definitely. I still miss it, and once the gyms are open here, and if I get a space here, then I definitely will do some one-to-one training, but it won't be nearly as much. I may just train maybe once or twice a week, try and get all my clients into that kind of time slot. But yeah, I miss it. I miss it terribly. But I love this online training. It's fun. It's nice to be sharing more to more people.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's take a bit of a switch of track. I mentioned in the intro your experiences as a male model. Tell us a bit about how that came about, and if it's a passion of yours, or if it's something that just was presented to you, how it fits into your life now and moving forward.
So the first gym I worked in was in the Bulgari Hotel in London, and I think they only employed models. And when I started, I wasn't a model. And I went in, and everyone, the girls and the guys, all the PTs were models. And when I first came out of university and whatever, never interested at all. But chatting to the guys, and they were going off to this country or somewhere else to do this shoot. We've seen these people, and the more and more I was around them, the more and more they kind of rubbed off. And I was like, oh, this could be maybe possibly something that I might be interested in. And so I went to, it was my friend Chris, I went to the agency he's with, which was Models One in London, and went in and had kind of had a small meeting, and they said, we're interested, but we've got to give you a test shoot first of all. And I was like, what's a test shoot? I was like, Chris, what's a test shoot? He was like, well, you just go and take some photos with a photographer. I was like, okay, cool. And my expectations of a photo shoot was what I've been spoken to, my sister, or you see what online or any backstage kind of behind the scene kind of footage. Huge kind of studio with hair, makeup, assistants running all over the place, photographers, assistant photographers, and whatever. I'm like, okay, I'm like going to be shitting myself. All the attention is going to be on me, and it's going to be quite nerve wracking. But I was like, okay, then right, let's do it. And they said, yeah, we found this really great photographer. He's just come out of this, fashion university. I was like, okay, great. And they were like, cool, this is the address. And I was like, okay, cool. The day I woke up, just sort myself out. I was like, all you need to do is take a few of your clothes, but they're going to have some clothes as well. I was like, okay, great. They're going to be having whatever clothes to wear. And then I get on, I can't remember where it was, somewhere in North London. And I was like, okay, get the tube. And then he was like, oh, I'll pick you up. I was like, okay, that's nice. The photographer's going to pick me up and then, take me to the studio, whatever. And I get out and I call him. We go, oh, I'm here. How long are you going to be? He goes, oh no, actually, just walk. I'm like, okay then, fine. Okay, cool, right. So I started walking, and I'm on Google Maps. I'm walking, and then walking all that stuff. And then I start walking down this residential road, and I can see, the red bit on Google, and I was like, have I got the right address? This just looks like a house. I was like, okay, I was like, fine. And I turn up at this door, whatever number it was, it's called 27, and I knocked on the door, and I was like, well, this is a bit odd, maybe the studio's out the back or whatever. And the guy turns up, opens the door, and he goes, oh, hey, how's it going, Toby? And I'm like, oh, yeah, cool. It was great. Would you like a cup of tea? Been really friendly. I was like, yeah, I'll have a cup of tea. He goes, we go into the kitchen, there's a cup of tea, and in the back of my head, I'm like, looking around slightly, thinking, where are we going to shoot? And I just assumed that, maybe he's got a studio at the back, or maybe one of the like rooms down here is a studio or whatever. And he was like, oh, okay, then well, we're going to go upstairs. I was like, okay, then maybe the studio's maybe with my cup of tea, all innocent, thinking like, I started going upstairs. He goes, oh, in here, here's my room. And he says, your room? And I was like, and we walk in, and it's his bedroom. And I'm like, so where are we shooting? Oh, we were shooting here. And I was like, is there anyone else? He goes, no, it's just me and you. I'm like, what? What do you mean it's just me and you? Yeah, it's just me and you. I was like, oh, okay then. And I was like, right, this is like completely, my expectations were like way up here, and I was like, okay then, cool, this is what it is, and this is what it is. And he was like, okay, I've got these bits of clothes for you to wear, what have you got? And I was like, I got this and this and this, and I just had a couple of pairs of jeans and some t-shirts or whatever. And he was like, I'll try this on. And he was not 6'4", and he must have been 5'7", 8 at the max, and he was telling me to put on these trousers, and I was like, I can't even get into these trousers.
These are his clothes, are they?
Yeah, whose are these? He goes, oh, they're mine. I'm like, what? I was like, yeah, so I was putting on his clothes. I was like, oh, well, let's just stick to mine. And he was like, okay, then we'll jump on the bed. And I'm like, what do you mean jump on the bed? He was like, right, we're going to first start shooting on the bed. And it was just like, I was like, what is happening here? And then we did a couple of looks. Looks is when you just wearing different outfits for anyone that doesn't know. A couple of different looks in his bedroom, a couple of them on the bed, and then a couple of them just like in the where his window is or whatever. And he's like, oh, we're going to go outside now, grab your stuff. And then we went outside, went down this kind of like, down this alleyway, and I'm like, what the hell are we doing going down this alleyway? Like, no. And I was like, nothing's gonna happen, it's absolutely fine. But you're just feeling that, just like, this is just weird. And he's like, right, take your top off and all this, and I'm like, whoa, and you're like, fine, let's do it. I just had that. Your mind just switches, and I just had that like, fuck it kind of attitude. Right, fuck it. But what's the worst that's going to happen? Right, it doesn't really matter if I'm in the street in just my pants. Like, fuck it. It doesn't. If the photos look cool or whatever, and it just got worse and worse. I don't think I don't know, it was in my pants, but I was definitely topless in some shorts or some trousers, and then it starts pissing down with rain. He's like, no, just keep going. I'm like, what the hell is going on? And he's like, okay, I think we've done enough. And I think we went back. I said goodbye, and I went back. And then next week or a couple of days or a few days later, the agency called me and say, oh, we got the images. I was like, great, send them over to me. And they send them over to me, and I'm like, they weren't amazing, but I was very impressed with them.
Yeah.
And you're just like, not impressed with me, just impressed with how amazing these photographers are at shooting something or someone in the most obscure kind of places, but they just have a vision to shoot in that kind of
frame,
through that lens, and shut out everything else around it, but just focus on that square or whatever size that shot is, just that frame. And you're like, wow, like how can you see that? I've got no photography skills at all still. But it just blows your mind. So yeah, that was my first experience of.
That's brilliant. I assume it went a little bit more upmarket from there.
Yeah, and then kind of a little bit, but it was kind of from there. Anything was going to be kind of not better, because I had a great experience, but anything's going to be just more kind of more pumped up than that. So yeah, kind of now I'm just like. If from that straight away, whatever a photographer, within reason, whatever a photographer said, I was like, cool, fuck it. I just had that fuck it approach for the rest of it. And that doesn't mean, I still get nervous or very uncomfortable in front of the lens, but you just got to kind of flick it. I kind of had to flick a switch in my head and decide I'm not Toby, I am Toby the model, because it doesn't come naturally to me,
really,
at all. It was never a thing that I wanted, and I still to this day, if I walked into an agency and just said my name is Toby Smith, they wouldn't take me on. I've got to say thank you that my sister opened up the doors to that, and I'm under no illusion that she just helped me. Not that she made a phone call or whatever, but just the association with her opened up a lot of doors for me. I'm under no illusion to that, because I don't.
Why do you feel that way though? I mean, surely that's your own self-visualization of how you look compared to how you think other male models look. Because I mean, when I look at you, I think you look like a male model, but obviously, in your own head,
maybe, but I still don't. I look at the peers around me, and I always kind of looking at them and thinking they're so much better, blah 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 blah, and it's just not. It's a weird industry, because unlike personal training, I'm in control of that. The harder I work, the more I succeed. Modeling, you're purely judged on the way you look, and I can't make someone give me a modeling job. It's only on my book or what my agent's telling me about me. So I've always just looked and compared, and you do just, instead of just focusing on yourself, you automatically then compare yourself to other people. And you're like, well, Jim's working more than me. Richard's working more than me. Ollie's working more than me. Sam's working more than me. And you're like, well, why are these guys working and not me? And I'm like, well, maybe I'm just not cut for this. Maybe it's just not for me. And weirdly, my size doesn't help at all. Because when you do start comparing yourself, you suddenly realize that all the peers around me are between 6 foot and 6'2".
Yeah.
And that makes a huge difference. I don't fit into sample clothes. I don't fit into a medium large. I'm a large, extra large.
Yeah.
And it's everything. It's down to the shoes. I'm 1-2 sizes too big for that. It's down to the neck. If you're wearing a tailored shirt or a suit, my chest is too big. My arms are too long. My legs are too long. It's just the way it is. So that kind of the work that they get. The day-to-day bread and butter work, if it's e-commerce or for smaller brands that have only got one sample size, which you need to then get the bigger jobs, because you need to be working regularly to then get noticed. I never really got into a good kind of routine of that. So I knew pretty early on that I'd never be working as much as those other guys. And it was never a priority. It never really was a priority. My fitness and my nutrition has always been my priority. So it's always been second. So I think at the back of my mind, that's always played on me a little bit.
Yeah.
So I think I had a lot of kind of insecurities around it, not thinking that I'm good enough, not thinking that I would be here if it wasn't for my sister or whatever. But I took it, and I love every shoot I've done and everything I've done, and I think the fitness industry, especially in London, is great. The men's scene is amazing. Everyone I've met in there has been so friendly. I've never ever had a bad experience, working for, if it's going to the events, or if it's working for the magazines, or if it's working for the brands. I've never ever had a bad experience. They've all been like amazing, absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
And I've been lucky. I've shot with some of the most amazing photographers in the world. I've shot with the likes of, Bruce Weber to Mario Testino.
Wow,
and they are the photographers, right? They're the guys. Absolutely. If you talk to young photographers, they're the guys that they kind of look up to, and they set a standard. And I've been so fortunate to be able to shoot with those guys, and I tell you what, it's something else to be on a shoot with them, and just how it's like they're a puppeteer, or they're like the conductor in orchestra. It's just incredible, and you just kind of just trust them completely. They make you feel just like, and it just and then you look at the results and you're like, blows your mind
Yeah.
away.
So you weren't in Mario Testino's bedroom then? I imagine that one had a bit more production value around it.
Yeah.
Oh, brilliant. All right, well, let's move on from modeling then into your latest venture, which, as I mentioned before, is HWLabs. So really, really interested to find out where the idea for this came from, how it's all going. I've obviously launched my own startup in the last couple of years, and from everything down to the packaging that it comes in, and the ingredient deck, and how it's manufactured. I mean, even today I've been having a bit of a nightmare with it all. But tell me how it's been going anyway. Tell me where the idea came from.
So, I think I was a very cliche, stereotypical personal trainer when I first started. I was like, I want my own gym, I want my own merch, I want my own supplement brand, all that kind of stuff. And my ambitions were pretty big from the beginning. And I've always had that in the back of my mind, having a supplement brand, having my own gym, maybe that further down, have my own equipment and merch. And for me, as horrendous as COVID has been for us all, it was quite a blessing in disguise for me, because I was able to sit in front of a computer and really work on my dreams I haven't been able to work on just because I've been full-time PT and focusing on my clients, not focusing on what's next. And it kind of hit me when I turned 30. I was like, right, I've been personal training, loving that for the last 6 years. Now what's next? Now it's time. Now I've gathered enough information. Now I've gathered enough knowledge. I can now start putting that into some sort of product, something that I can market myself. The supplement came kind of first, and it came quite naturally to me. It was talking to Noah and talking to other people around me. I've always taken supplements from not a kid, but early kind of teens or whatever, just to help support me and I always took vitamin C, I suppose. That was the one, Berocca. We always, as a household, we always had Berocca, always had vitamin C. Mum used to say, you can never have enough vitamin C. If your body's not using it, you just excrete it. But it's something very, very powerful about it. So we always had it. And even though we were eating the most amount, what am I trying to say? We were trying to eat the best food, and our nutrition was spot on. It's just kind of, I always think that having a supplement just takes the guesswork away. So if you're not unsure, and it just comforts you slightly that you are getting it. So that's why I wanted to do a supplement company. And then why I chose gummies was because, it's actually Noah's idea, it's Noah's and our brand, that so many people struggle taking a pill. And I'd never really, I can take a pill with water or without water, never had a problem. But the more and more research I did into supplements, the more I found out that one of the biggest kind of stop points for people of supplements was they can't sustain it because of the taking it in the first place. They struggle to take it. It tastes nasty. They can't take it anywhere. If it's a powder, you need water. If it's something you dissolve in water, you need water. If it's a pill, a lot of people find it tastes horrible or they need water to drink it. So we're like, gummies, they're just as sweet and they help. And the more and more research I did in gummies, there's more and more research I found that it's much easier to sustain. Because they're easy to eat, and two, because they taste great. And, it's that psychological kind of, it's a little treat, it's a little sweet you can have, at 8 o'clock in the morning. And if you have a sweet tooth, it kind of works that way. So it was like, right, let's do gummies. And then we launched with hair, skin and nails. And that came from, because I wanted to bring in everything around me. I didn't want to make it a fitness supplement. I wanted to make it I want to make HWLabs a lifestyle brand, not a fitness brand, because as much as I love fitness, I'm not a gym rat and it's not my life. I like to go to the pub and eat and have, eat a pie and have a pint or whatever. So it needs to be something to support a lifestyle, not like someone that high-end fitness. And, one of the things that I was asked when I started modeling, and then a lot of my clients came to me because I was modeling, was what I did to make sure that my hair was looking the way it looks and make sure my skin was clear. And I was like, well, I take vitamins. And when I did start, my skin, I've always had problems with my skin. I looked into supplements. I looked into vitamins that I could take for it. And so I started taking the same vitamins that are now in that bottle. So it kind of brings everything in to what I've been working on or doing for the last, 6-7 years. It brings in that kind of fitness and making sure that I'm looking good, which makes me feel good, and that fitness, keeping healthy and getting the right amount of nutrients and minerals in for me. So that's kind of why I went for Heskin and ELLE.
Well, yeah, and you've launched it at a perfect time, really, whereas everyone has more of a focus on vitamins, health. Obviously, vitamin D's had a lot of time in the press over the last few months, which is a great thing. I've always been a big advocate of vitamin D and supplementation myself, to be honest. So yeah, that's great. And how have you gone about getting it all made? Like, has it been a straightforward process, or it's made in the UK, right?
It's made in the UK. I worked with an amazing lady that is a specialist in supplements. She's a supplement nutritionist. So we have loads of video calls and conversations, emails saying, this is what I want, how can we make it work? These are the vitamins I wanted. So we came up with, these are the vitamins I need. And then she put me in touch with a few kind of manufacturers. And then I found some myself, and then it's just talking to one manufacturer to another. And the hardest thing I found was finding a manufacturer that would work with me, being a startup, being very small, because the minimum order is usually tens of thousands. And I was like, I don't want to do that. That's one of my things, is I wanted to make it small. I wanted to try and decrease the amount of impact that we had on the environment, so make it small batch. But I found this amazing, manufacturer, and we worked really hard together. And we found the right gummy, we found the right vitamins and the right bottle. I wanted to make sure it is fully recyclable. So we worked on a lot of stuff. So it took time. It took nearly a year until the product was in my hand, but I'm sure you understand as well.
Pretty similar for us, yeah.
What kind of hassle it can be.
Start of 2019, we started the design process, and then started March 2020, we launched just in time for the lockdown. But yeah, no, I mean, I as I say, when I look at things like these now, and I'm sure you do as well, with a completely different eye, and you think, right, how does that lid go together with that? Where's that? Who sticks that label on? Is it done with a machine? Like the precision fit of your box around your thing. All of those things, like in my head now, are like sparking off memories.
Yeah, and I'm still not happy with it. You're like, I wish that could be that this, and wish this could be this, and this is our first batch. I've just ordered a second batch, and we've changed the label just slightly. I didn't even think about having a barcode. You'll have a look on that, and there's no barcode. And I think what I've had to do is Amazon are doing all the deliveries, and they've stuck this huge sticker on it, and I'm like, oh no. So now I've got a barcode, and the whole hassle of getting a barcode. I didn't even realise that the minefield it is. You can buy these fake ones or these official ones, and these official ones, cost some money. But I was like, right, I'm just going to do it properly. Buy an official one and then put it to this and this. But yeah.
Everything costs more than you expect, isn't it?
It's something else. You're like, hang on, you're told when you go to the manufacturer, yeah, it's going to cost this amount. Like, okay, cool. Okay, then can you send your label? Yeah, the label is going to cost this much. What do you mean the label is going to cost this much? You just told me the price of the product. They're like, well, yeah. And I'm like, well, and this is the label. Like, well, can I have a little bit matty? Yeah, if you want it matte, then it's going to cost this much on top. I'm like, oh. So then suddenly a product that you're like, okay, cool. And then you suddenly have to change everything when you start to take into account everything else.
All part of the fun, though, isn't it?
And it's been so much fun. But now it's, I jumped on the government help last year and got a loan. But I'm going to start paying that back in 2 months' time. So I'm like, oh god. So and I just put all of that money into this, and now I'm like,
Need to start selling now.
Now it's got to work. Now it's got to work. And the great thing is it's selling, and now, you know, it's been launched for over a month, and now we're getting return customers, which is the best feeling, because people aren't then just buying it for a hunch. They're buying it now because it works. And that's the best feeling, is the return customers coming back and ordering again. And, you know, I write them an email saying thank you so much for the order, and the feedback you get as if it's, you know, odd stuff like, I went to get my nails done, and you know, the nail artist, the nail beautician said how much stronger my nails were. And I was like, well, that's great, amazing, you know. Or my hair's like this, or my skin's cleared up, or my eczema's gone down, and you're like, that's such a great feeling that I've made something
it's
that
big
is
changes, big things for people.
You know, it's big changes. It's not life changing or anything, but it's the same as personal training. If someone now feels more confident or more comfortable walking in a room because they feel their skin is clearer, or they feel their hair is better, or their nails is better, you know, it just puts a smile on my face. I'm like, that is what I wanted. All I wanted to do is kind of just, you know, make someone more comfortable in their own skin.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, no, it's a great product, as I say, and they are delicious. My main concern with them is I know it says only have like 2 a day, and they're almost like Pringles. Once you pop, you just keep on going.
Yeah, you got to be a bit careful, and you know, you know, if you were to have, you know, I'm not saying, but if you were to have 3 or 4, it's not a massive problem, and depending on, you know, you're 6'4", so, you know, it all depends the amount of vitamins we should be having a day, and if it's water soluble, you're okay. There are some fat soluble vitamins in there, so you've got to be a little bit careful.
Overdoing it, yeah.
You know, just stick to 2 a day, and you got no problem.
Absolutely, yeah, I love it, mate. And have you got? So there's you mentioned this is sort of like the first step. Have you got ambitions to grow the category, grow the brand from this first product?
Yeah, we're going to stick to this first product, get it rolling out, get it comfortable within our small market, and then I'm already, the back of my mind, already thinking of the next products. Solely keeping to supplements, and I want to have my whole range as gummies, and then, you know, from there we'll branch off if it's, you know, more lifestyle stuff, if it is fitness equipment or merchandise further down the line.
Brilliant, love it. Okay, well we're nearing the end of the talk, so let's jump into a little bit of rapid fire before we finish up the talk. So, what is your current favourite podcast, if you have one?
My current favourite podcast? Yeah. I don't know. The one that I always come back to, and it's the most boring because everyone listens to it, but it is the Joe Rogan podcast, and it's number one for a reason. And the guests, and he's in a position now where his guests are just like incredible, and it's always an inspiration. And just the way he communicates with people. I watched a few YouTube videos on him, and how he communicates and how he interacts with his clients is something quite amazing. There's a lot of kind of science behind what he's even doing within his podcast. He's purposely, the way he makes his guests comfortable, all that kind of stuff, the psychology behind it. He's really learned the art of interviewing someone, and if it's the simple things of, you know, he repeats the last couple of words that someone says to make them feel comfortable. The way he compliments someone, the way he says, "Oh, that reminds me of this," to change the conversation. If the conversation's gone down one way and he wants to bring it back, he'll say, "Oh, this reminds me of this," or "Oh," so the way he controls the conversation without the guests feeling they're being controlled is amazing. Yeah, I recommend watching those. Look at like Joe Rogan's kind of like tactics of how he podcasts is amazing. Yeah, but I think it's just brilliant, and he's the one that I always go back to. Any
particular guest that you enjoyed him interview?
The Mike Tyson one was great.
Okay,
he did that. I went down a rabbit hole maybe a year ago, and it was like just listening to all the boxes he's had on there. But the Mike Tyson one was the one that stuck out the most. Yeah, that was good.
Brilliant.
And the Elon Musk one was quite good. Yeah.
Yeah, the Elon Musk one was scary.
That wasn't rapid fire, was it? That wasn't quick fire at all.
No, I like it. I mean, I call them rapid fire, but it's just so I can throw in a load of random questions that I want to hear the answers to. I don't care if you go long on them. What is your favourite holiday destination?
Oh, God, that's a difficult one. Italy. I love it. I love Italy. And we booked. Noah and I booked, and we're like, right, I want to go to Italy. I didn't go last year. I try and go to Italy like once a year, and booked down in Puglia, like the right bottom, like the heel of the boot, I always call it. And we booked it. We're like, right, we're going to go there for 3 or 4 days. Found an amazing hotel, booked it all, booked the flight, and then three days later, we had an email back saying your flight's been cancelled. And we just, no, just because
COVID?
it's because of COVID. And I imagine I imagine it's COVID, and I imagine just haven't had enough guests. Haven't had enough bookings on the flights. They just cancelled it, and they were the only company, the only flight that came out of Paris. So we kind of had to rethink, and we were like, well, we wanted to go to the south of Italy. We want to get a bit of sun. So Italy was out of the question. I think we'll go there later this year. But we just booked to go to Menorca for the first time. So
lovely.
I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, I've heard it's great. Have you done the Amalfi before?
Yeah. No, I'm waiting until I've got serious amount of cash to splash there. Because I think it's one of those expensive places, isn't it?
But it is very nice. I can thoroughly recommend Positano as a place to stay down there. Okay.
I'd love to do
last
that.
rapid fire question. What do most people get wrong about you?
What do most people get wrong about me? Oh, that like. I think we get to talk to people is that people don't realise how much of a goofball I am.
Right.
It sounds a bit odd, but how much of just a goon and like just an idiot and just kind of a buffoon I can be when I'm quite closed to people when I first meet them, and it can come across quite like arrogant in a way, because I'm quite quiet, and when I'm not in a very kind of comfortable position, I'm quite closed. But the more and more people get to know me, the more and more they realise that I'm a complete just idiot, and I'll dance about like a prat. So yeah, that's probably one of the misconceptions people have of me, is that I'm actually just a complete muppet.
I like it. I love that. Brilliant. Okay, mate. Well, final question, which is the question that we ask for everyone in the podcast. What is the one small change that you've made in your life that you wish you'd made earlier?
It sounds really odd, and I think it's because of COVID, but it's making more of an effort with my parents and not taking them for granted. And not taking them for granted, but just having them there. Just, my parents are always going to be there. And not that I was ever worried for my parents, but just not being able to see them, you suddenly get that like, that fear and that want to be around them. So definitely that's what I wish I did. And not, I'm 30 and my parents aren't old, but that's something that I wish I made more of an effort with, maybe in my early 20s, was to make more of an effort with my parents, to go down to my parents when I lived in London more, because now I'm in Paris, it's going to be even harder, but to see my parents more and to get to know them better, and less of a father-son or mother-son relationship, and more of just that like adult relationship. And it's, I speak to my parents now more than I ever have, and I feel like I've got more of a connection with them than I have ever had before. And it's I'm not sure, maybe it's just because I've got to 30 and that's what you do when you're in your 30s. But yeah, I feel like that's really there's been a real shift in my relationship with my parents, and I wish that shift came sooner. Yeah,
I think that's a really, really good point. I think it's so easy to, whenever you see your parents, just to be in autopilot, in that they've always been around, they're just there. I normally see them on a Sunday, so in my 20s I was normally hungover. So it was always it was a very one-dimensional relationship, I guess, in many ways. Even though I'm very close to my family, it's very easy, I think, to fall into that trap and not be sort of present and aware of their presence. And I love that part.
Because your mum and dad's always going to be happy when you come home, right?
Yeah.
They're always going to have that big smile on it, and then you just. One, you start to act like a 13-year-old boy again. What's for dinner, mum? Or can you do this washing or whatever? Which mums and parents or whatever love to do, but it's also kind of slightly taking a little bit advantage of it. I followed something came up on Instagram the other day in a reel, and it was this guy saying about the value of his parents, and he was saying, look, my parents. He was saying his parents were in their 80s, and he said, I've got, one way of saying is I've got another 5 years with them. I've got loads of time. And then he kind of said, well, I see my parents 2 times a year. Or I saw my parents 2 times a year. That's 10 more times I'm going to see my parents. And that really hit me.
Yeah.
And I was like, whoa, that's quite frightening.
Yeah.
So, and then what he said is when I looked at it that way, not how many years I have left with them being here, how many times I'm going to see them. Now he said he sees them, every week, every month. And that switch, that really, when you just watch something, it really hits you.
Yeah.
I think I called my mum and dad up straight away, and I booked as soon as I can now to go to the UK, but it really suddenly hits you that, wow, actually, when you think about it, if I'm only going to see my parents 2, 3, 4 times a year, that's not many times.
Yeah, it's definitely less than 100.
I'm going to see that. Yeah. And you're like, well, hang on, there's X amount of days in a year, and you see people that you work with every day, but my parents, less than that. And that really stuck with me.
Brilliant. I love that, mate. That's such a powerful message to finish on. I think that's a really useful thing.
Bit deep.
No, I love it. It's spot on. And I live very close to my parents, and I still probably don't see them enough. So I think it's something that is very easy to regret if you don't find awareness of it early on in life. So I'm sure you've made a big impact on a lot of people with that final sentiment. Well, thank you, mate, so much for the talk. So. Really, really enjoyed it.
Absolute pleasure. Thank you so much, Simon.
Really wish you all the best with HWLabs. I'm sure it'll go from strength to strength. I'm probably going to pop a few now after the talk.
Great.
And I'll catch up with you when you're back in London, I'm sure. So thanks again.
Yeah, love to. Cheers, Simon. Thank you very much.
Bye.